episode 26.
What do we got today, Stu? What do we got for the people?
Well, today we're going to go talk a little bit about the Stanley Cup Final, because we have to, and then probably go into some situational stuff for goaltending and how to improve at, I guess what you'd call applying your tools to play situations the right way. But we'll get into that later.
Complicated topic.
Yeah. We were going to start with, we got to start with Peter DeBoer, right?
Yeah, I mean, last podcast we're on here kind of saying all the things we didn't like, the things that we necessarily didn't mind, and I think we both agreed that we didn't think he needed to be fired or Jake Ottinger needed to depart. I think we both thought that they could both come to terms with the situation, make up, and be fine and stick in Dallas.
Well, I would think they would have. I guess that's just but obviously Peter DeBoer was let go. That had to be like a front office decision. The only thing optically that I didn't like about DeBoer pulling Otter was that he like waved him back from the bench.
Yeah, it didn't look good.
It was kind of like not good to do to Otter in front of everybody.
But I'm sticking to my guns here. I think my assumption is that he literally forgot, and then he just like saw Jake skating away, and he was like, get back here.
Yeah, but I'd probably be like, hey, Casey, go in and tell Otter he's going to come out, instead of like waving my arms at him and yelling at him from the bench.
The arm. What if he just did it without the arm wave, and he was just like, get the fuck back here?
I still wouldn't like that, I don't think. I mean, he's having a tough. He's a good goalie. Sounds like a good guy. Is having a tough game. The last thing he needs right now is to just get worked.
Yeah.
Just take him out. Let him have his pride. I don't know.
I think
don't make a show of it in front of all those everybody.
I think it's
TV.
a respect thing.
Yeah, it's a respect thing. That's what I'm saying.
I think he's earned the respect, which is why it bothers you.
I'd be like, crap, guys, I forgot to take him out. Jamie, just tell the ref we're gonna change goalies. Casey, you're going in, and then just someone skate to tell Otter that he's coming out.
Yeah,
no big deal.
But again, emotional game.
Right? We knew he was fired up at that time.
He was fired up. He was very.
I'd be fired up too if it's an elimination game at home, and I'm like, the boys are gonna come out buzzing tonight, and we're down 2-0, 5 minutes in. Yeah, I'm not gonna be happy.
No, but again, it wasn't. To me, it wasn't so, like I didn't like that. I didn't like it either, but. For me, it was just the post game. I think that's what he dug his grave on. That.
Right. So do you think him being let go was a factor of the optics in game to their franchise goaltender and the interview after? Or do you think that it was, they've fallen short, frankly, they haven't won the cup, And not only have they not won the cup, it seems like when they get to the conference finals, they just kind of get worked.
I think it's mostly like the latter, but the GM literally came out and said publicly that the situation with Jake Ottinger in Game 6 or whatever that was, Game 5, Game 6, Game 5, I think, played a role in his decision to let him go. So, to me, it in the GM's words, who obviously fired the guy, he said, yeah, it played a part in it. But when he says play a part, that makes me assume that it was just the results of the last few years.
Right.
That was the majority of his decision.
Right. Do you think Jake went in there and was just like, get this guy out of here?
I don't know.
There's no way.
Nobody will know. This is one of those things that like the GM could be completely blowing smoke, and he loved Peter DeBoer until that moment, and then he fired him because of how he treated Jake. But then he goes on the stand and just lies to everybody. I don't know.
I doubt that.
I don't know. I mean, at the same time, people are saying, why didn't Peter DeBoer go on there and just say, I needed a momentum switch for my team, and I thought maybe pulling Jake would do that for us. That's also could be a lie, apparently.
Right.
But majority of people think he should have went up there and said that.
Right. It could have been what it was.
Still have a job.
There could have been a little panic in there. Like, we're getting worked by the Oilers. The boys will come out tonight and do well. Then we're getting worked 5 minutes in. It's like, what do I do?
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's a classic case. My honest opinion is he didn't need to be fired, even though I've had a few people reach out to me saying that he wanted to be fired, and that's why he did what he did. I don't know if I necessarily think that, but
I don't know about that.
I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Wanted to be fired for what?
So that he can get a bigger paycheck.
To do what? Oh, was he not up for? Dallas isn't going to pay him any more money?
I don't know. I'm just telling you what people are saying to me.
Okay,
This is not something I believe.
Right.
I don't think this is what happened. I think he was just emotional and said something stupid. But I think this is a classic case of an NHL general manager overreacting and firing a guy for the wrong reasons because outside sources, being media and fans, think a certain way, which I've noticed in the NHL just seems to be a trend. Because from my experience within sports organizations, as I said on last podcast, within the walls of the dressing room, whether it's player to player, player to coach, whatever it may be, there are some absolute battles and disagreements and guys going at each other all the time. So it doesn't make sense to me why someone would be fired for this.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's probably just a makeup of the last few years, right?
I think it's either that or just a NHL GM overreacting to a situation because everyone else outside his organization thinks something needs to be done.
Right. I don't know.
Unfortunately.
We'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. But unfortunately, I think that there's a good chance that that's it.
Yeah. It's just, we were just bringing it up because we talked about it, and then now something actually happened, which was we thought that Dallas was going to figure out a way to keep both of them, but it sounds like Dallas didn't want to keep both of them anyways. And obviously, you're going to choose Jake Ottinger probably.
Yeah.
So they just had to let DeBoer go, it seems.
On a more positive note, that opens up a coaching spot, and my vote for the Dallas coach is my guy Mitch Love.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying to you the other day, I feel like the last 3 or 4 coaching vacancies his name has been in the mix.
Yeah.
Specifically, recently, there was the Calgary Flames coaching vacancy.
Okay.
A year ago.
Yeah.
He was I think top 3 in the conversation with that one.
That's pretty sweet.
Then
Penguins.
Well, even before Penguins, there was the Seattle Kraken job.
Okay.
I don't know if his name was so much in the media about that one, but it made sense to me because he was my coach when I was playing in Everett, which is basically Seattle. And then the Penguins. I literally had someone come up to us. I was driving up the hill at our apartment, and a mutual friend of ours came up to me who's a Penguins fan, and he was like, "Man, Mitch Love's going to be the new head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins." I then get into my apartment, pick up my phone, and I have a score notification saying that other guy's the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oh, so they hired, what was his name?
Dan Muse?
Oh.
Dan Muse?
Okay, that's the guy that's there at 6 a.m. every day, right?
Yeah. That's the guy where I was
take it. That's what they're saying.
What's he doing for the first 2 hours of the day?
Right.
But anyways, my point is I hope for Mitch Love because he's just a friend of mine, and I think he's a hell of a coach. Very defensive-minded from my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, I haven't seen him talk to him much within the last 10, 12 years, but when he was my coach in Everett, he's nails, he's tough. I think his standards are extremely high, and he puts a lot of thought and emphasis into the defensive side of the puck, which I know you specifically would respect.
Yeah, I think that's how you win. The Hawks also recently had an opening.
Really, I didn't know this.
And we hired someone who wasn't Mitch Love, so we'll see how it goes in Chicago.
Who'd they hire? Do you know?
Blashill.
Oh, that's
Jeff
right.
Blashill?
We talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know much about him.
I don't know much about him either. I think he played goalie though.
Really?
I think
Do you know his first name?
goalie. Might be Jeff.
Don't know how to spell his name.
I don't want to disrespect the new Hawks coach. It's Blashill. Yeah, Jeff Blashill.
All right.
Yep, there it is. New Blackhawks coach, Jeff Blashill.
What am I typing?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he played goalie at Fair State, if I'm not mistaken.
1973, Detroit, Michigan. Does it say born in Detroit, Michigan? Yeah.
He was at Fair State. Is that coaching? No, that's I see. He was a coach.
He's been a coach since 1998.
Good for him. And now he's up in the NHL. That's great. But he's been in the NHL before. Yeah, Red Wings. Okay, I see. Yeah, Red Wings.
He was a head coach, for the Wings.
I got a question for you, real quick. Yeah. If you're like a second-year young guy, first-round pick, and your face-off percentage has been 38% for your first 2 seasons in the NHL, and you don't know how to play in your own zone, do you think if you were asked to go play with some of the best players in the world, the best leaders in the world for Team Canada at World Championships, you might go play just to maybe pick up something from Sid or something like that?
Yeah, I think I would, yeah.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure. Had to get that off my chest.
Had to be something else going on there, right?
Well, the player said he wanted to focus on his own development because that's gone really well for him so far.
What could help your own development more than playing with Sidney Crosby?
Yeah, you know who was there? Macklin Celebrini. He wants to get better. He's learning from Sid every day on the ice. Maybe how they approach the game.
Or Ryan O'Reilly.
Maybe Sid's working out before the game. Maybe learn how to work with him. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I'll never understand that. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night or look myself in the mirror if I was like, you know what, I just chose not to play on a team that Sidney Crosby chose to play.
Right. You're getting paid millions of dollars to play this game. Yeah, you're gonna have to play the game.
I don't get that, but whatever.
It is what it is. All right. Anyways,
I don't know the guy.
Anyways, that's all I'm gonna say about that.
All right.
So right now we have the Stanley Cup Finals going on, and we just had Game 2 on Friday night. You got anything to say on that game?
Yeah, I mean, from an entertainment standpoint, it was a hell of a hockey game. First period, there was a ton of action, a lot of
3-2.
penalties.
Some really nice goals. I mean, tough game for the goalies, really.
Yeah. Was it the first goal where it was like the back-to-back door on Stu where the Bennett? I think
Yeah. It was backdoor to backdoor. Like that's Stu's a little bit stiffer than most guys, so Bob and Vasi might make that save, but still, I think he got a little too far out on the first backdoor. So when it went back to backdoor, he couldn't get there.
Yeah, it's one of those ones
which is a crazy ask, but we're like, you could do it.
Yeah, I think when we say he was a little too far out, he was kind of like probably like toes on top, maybe mid blade on top.
Yeah.
But it's hard if it goes back to back door.
Yeah.
Or I think on the broadcast they called it weak side to weak side. It's like you gotta on that initial backdoor play, you got to head towards your post.
Yeah, you got to work towards the post, because if it goes anywhere else, you're not going to be able to get there.
Yeah.
He kind of went out at it, and I think that put him in a tough spot.
He also looked to me like on that play, and more so at the beginning of the game than towards the end, he looked like he was pretty amped up.
Yeah,
so maybe
probably.
He wasn't feeling his best.
Yeah, so especially like 2.5 minutes in, you're amped up. You want to make probably that first save, so you get a little bit chasey.
Been there.
But yeah, I'm there. Yeah. All the time.
We're there on a January 10th game.
Yeah, we're there in game 36
in like Evansville.
Yeah.
There's like 500 people in the stands. Right. We're that guy.
100%. Now imagine the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
But that's one where Helly's got like the same level of flexibility, but I don't know. He might not make that one either, but I think Bob and Vasi, just due to their flexibility, and Bob might get a little chasey on it too. So he might not be in a position to make that save. Either way, there was so much net that Bennett fanned on it, and it still went in. I think you'd like to see. You want to make it harder on them to score than having you could shoot it anywhere on the ice and they score.
Yeah, I think that's a frustrating goal to let in. If I'm
for
him,
sure.
I'm like, because you're so close to making the save, and you also know you have the ability to make that save, and you kind of just did yourself a disservice
like
by
I could have
how
played
you
that
played
one
it
differently.
Yeah. I thought both goalies looked a little amped up, but more so Stu than Bob. For the most part, I thought Bob looked pretty solid, pretty dialed.
Bob's got the experience. Yeah. Although there were a couple times he was flying out at the puck.
But no matter how much experience he has, he just always does that sometimes.
Yeah.
He literally swings his stick on wraparounds.
But in game 1, we talked about this. Obviously, the first goal, he gave up shot from the point. He probably would have liked to catch that.
Yeah.
It hit his palm and bounced. But on the rebound, he pushed out at it, so when it hit his pad and went to Leon backdoor, he couldn't reach back and get it. I feel like if he just goes across and it hits his pad and it goes to Leon, now he just pushes again, and he's taking away the majority of the net by the time Leon shoots that.
Yeah, he took like a forward angle pass
right
to the puck. And then what happened? Did he make a save, or did it pop back out somehow?
It hit his pad
and
then went back out.
And Leon was just kind of sitting like a few feet off the goal line.
Leon knows where to be for that puck to find him.
Yeah, he's good at that. That's kind of his spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what we're saying is obviously on that initial rebound off his glove, if he takes more of a backward path or even just straight across, as you said.
Yeah.
Preferably backward, I would say.
Yeah.
If he's just in a better position once that second rebound hits him for the third shot.
Yeah, right.
But this is where we preach. If you put yourself in a good spot, making that third save is not only possible but probable in our opinion.
Yeah, like almost expected.
But where a lot of people or analysts of the game will say, "Oh, it wasn't on the goalie. Like he made the first two saves.
Yeah.
So the third one's on the D." Which, to a certain degree, yes. But as goalies, it's like we want to give ourselves the best chance to make.
Yeah, we're looking at how could you play that situation better.
Yeah.
To give yourself a better chance to make that save.
And I would say I hold Bob to such a high standard that I would expect him to know that Leon's going to be creeping in that spot.
Yeah, and I know that it was a quick play, and sometimes to get that push angled back, feels like it takes a little bit longer because you got to bring your foot in front of you to push backwards rather than just grab your blade right away and push across. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. That's what I could think. Yeah, Bob could do that. His edges
can do that.
His edges and hips are crazy.
Maybe
he could do that.
Maybe there's something to say for the fact that it was, like you said, a shot from the point that hit his palm. He's probably expecting not to have a rebound on that play.
Yeah.
So now you're think about that split second.
You're like, oh crap.
When it hits the palm of your glove and pops out and you're not expecting it,
you
have like half a second to react to the rebound.
Yeah. Well, and I'd be like, oh crap, because anytime I feel like you make a mistake that ends up in them having the puck with a chance to score, I get a little bit more tense. I'm like, okay, I got to really stop this now because, whether I turn it over, whether I poke it, on accident past my defenseman and it goes to their guy, whatever it is.
Yeah, you just get a little more tense.
Get a little more tense.
Like, that was a bad play by me. I got to make up for that quick.
Right.
And then you end up doing something that you shouldn't.
And then 0.7 seconds later, it's in your net.
Yeah. And you have 20,000 people
or 1.5. Right.
Yeah.
Welcome to the finals.
Yeah. I think both goalies are playing fairly well, if not really well right now. And obviously there's just at times during the games, maybe they look a little amped up, but they're not going to be perfect throughout the entire series. So it'll be interesting to see how this series plays out compared to last year's Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, because we're in a way different spot.
Yeah, and also like you obviously have two goalies, just strictly from a goalie's point of view. You have two goalies that both have experience playing against each other. They're in the exact same scenario as last year. Last year, Bob was unreal for the first 3 games of the series.
Yeah.
And
Game 7.
Not good the next 3 games.
Yeah.
Like, really not good.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Game 7, he was kind of back to Bob after he took his ayahuasca vacation on the beach.
Hiatus, yeah.
Whatever he did, right?
Yeah.
And then on the Stuart Skinner side of things, almost just flipped that script. Aside from, I don't really recall how he played in those first 3 games. If he necessarily was playing bad, or if the Oilers were just getting worked. But
I think they were just getting worked.
It'd be interesting. It'll be especially for me interesting to see if, like, let's say the Panthers win the next 2 games, and that means obviously they're up 3-1 in the series.
Yeah.
Does that little voice in Bob's head go, okay, last year when I was in this position, I sucked?
Maybe he knows how to handle it. And Stu's more of a game 5 through 7 kind of guy, so I think he likes being down 3-1. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna play well now.
Right. Yeah, I think
I want to feel something.
Yeah, I think if that scenario happens, the Panthers should be like, oh no.
Which is crazy. We talk about this a lot, but it's crazy how often the Oilers and Stuart Skinner have been down in a series or in an elimination game, and he's unreal.
Yeah,
it's like that. The amount of being able to handle that's crazy. Unlike the Leafs, who are like 1-13 in their last elimination games.
Yeah, wouldn't be the Stanley Cup playoffs without Stu throwing in a couple Leafs chirps.
Well, it's not chirps; it's just statistics. That's all that was.
So yeah, I don't know. You got anything else on the Stanley Cup Finals? I mean, obviously there's a game happening tonight.
Yeah, I think Oilers gave up 2 breakaways in overtime, and 1 on the power play.
You want to touch on that?
Like maybe cut down the breakaways a little bit for the boys here.
Why do you think the breakaways keep happening?
Well, The one shorthanded. Well, Bush gets caught outside the dots is what happens.
How many times in game 2?
At least twice, both of which ended up in his net.
Did the same player score on both those plays?
Yep, Brad Marchand both times. Bush getting outside the dots, doesn't need to, just opens up the middle. Marshy is gone for a breakaway. Almost got caught by McDavid the first time and almost got caught by Leon the second time.
What's the head coach's name for the Oilers?
Chris Knobloch?
Knobloch? Okay, that's what I thought it was, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it incorrectly. If I'm Knobloch, maybe I'm saying, like, Bush, look.
Just stay in dot lane.
Just need you to stay in between the dots.
Let Connor and Leon go get the puck on the wall there.
Yeah. Do your thing on the power play, run your little umbrella, dish it off to Draisaitl, McDavid. Like, go ahead. Like,
Be at the top. Give us a couple Bush bombs.
But when it's a 50-50 puck, or we don't have the puck, actually, you know what,
especially if the Panthers have two guys going to the puck with speed.
Yeah. How bad it actually is, and again, you brought like the light to me on this one. I never realized it, but you're just so good at analyzing hockey. I can only analyze one thing at a time. The more I see it, the more I think if I'm Knobloch, I'm like, Boosh, just stay in between the dots no matter what.
Don't go to the wall.
I
don't care what you're doing.
Let the worm handle the walls.
Yeah.
You just stay between the dots.
Which the worm, unbelievable player. Like, he's the best player on the Oilers, I think, at this point.
You're a big worm guy.
He's crazy good. I mean, there's no accident he's been in 5 straight finals, and he's scored in every single Stanley Cup Finals he's played in.
That's such a sick stat.
And he ties it up
5 straight.
Yeah, and he ties. Guys played a lot of hockey, and he plays, and he tied it up with, like, I don't know, not much time left last game. You need a guy out there. He wins the wall battle, moves it up, fights past his guy, loosed around into the net, out muscles him, and puts the rebound in. Come on.
Yeah, his stick is like wrapped in the guy's torso, and he still gets the shot off. Perfect placement.
What are we talking about right now?
Over the blocker side pad inside the post, like
through traffic.
Yeah. Wow. I can't put it there without with nothing on, nobody on me.
Right.
So, anyways, yeah. I guess I don't know what else to say about the Stanley Cup Final right now. I'm excited for Game 3.
One thing we will say, goaltending perspective on the breakaways. I thought the breakaway in double overtime, Stu kind of did this weird paddle down thing. I think he got thrown off by Leon lifting Marchand's stick to start. But I don't like when it goes across and the guy's on his backhand there. I think you just stay in the butterfly. Like there's no need to bring it paddle down because you open up a tight window, or you open up a window of space for a fraction of a second. But that's all that puck needs to slide through.
Okay. I'm a paddle down guy.
Is that
sometimes.
Not fair? Okay, but
fair.
In that situation.
But I just have to let you know my opinion on this one because we just watched that play.
I get it. If you're in your reverse and you already stick your paddle down and he's going across, I think that's one thing.
Yeah.
I think the transition to the paddle down while someone is
on a breakaway.
On a breakaway.
Yeah, it's tough.
While someone is shooting the puck, I think if you just slide in your butterfly, it just hits you.
I agree. There's still times where I've probably done it, but I don't think that's what I think Stu is just so not flexible, and he's so stiff.
So he thinks he's going to have to reach, and then he doesn't, so then he kind of gets off balance and goes paddle down. Okay.
I don't think he's going paddle down for paddle down's sake is what I'm saying. I think he's falling over a little bit.
I generally don't like paddle down.
No, you don't.
I think you can cover the same net and cover more of the top part of the net and have your hands.
I agree, but I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Like there's certain times where I like paddle down, and it's mostly on like you said, from my reverse on jam plays sometimes, or if they cut across and I'm already in that position,
if he's in front of you and his hands are in front of him and he can't lift the puck, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But again, I don't think that's what he is. I don't think his intentions were to go paddle down there. I think he just, or maybe it was because he's so awkward moving laterally that he's I got to really close this hole here.
It became a funky play with the stick lifts. So then he might have got a little off balance. He's like, okay, I'm going to fall into it, and then it just squeaked through.
Yeah, I was going to say, he went paddle down, and then it kind of went in exactly where it shouldn't go in when you go paddle down.
Right.
It was weird.
Right.
It hit his opposite inside knee.
It was weird. And somehow Marchand found a way to score 2 5-hole goals in different ways in the same game.
He's a hell of a player.
As a third-line player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wouldn't be a third-line player on many teams, I don't think.
Yeah, but that's how good Florida is.
Yeah, Florida's insane.
So that's
a
from
good point, Stu.
from a goaltending standpoint, that's what I had. I thought that was a little odd.
But I think you're going to see that from Stuart Skinner all the time.
Yeah, he had some unbelievable saves in overtime.
Yeah.
Like that one where Marchand got it, went forehand, backhand, and he reached out and got it with his toe. It was crazy.
Man, exactly. But the guy's a gamer. Like, he battles.
Right.
He battles hard every game.
But we
love him.
I think technically he's, like, on shots, he's pretty good.
Right.
He's really good.
But on lateral plays, I think he
gets
not
stiff.
good.
Yeah.
And I think, like, there was one play that it was a net drive. I think we talked about it after game 1. Barkov took it.
Yeah.
Across, and he made like an on-the-ice glove save. Again, he's like on all fours. I don't think he's trying to go paddle down.
I think but when he gets on all fours, I find it odd.
Me too. But I think it comes from that lack of like mobility.
Yeah. So do you think Helly, because Helly kind of ends up in weird spots in the same situations, what do you think allows Helly to make the saves on the lateral plays?
I think they both do, though.
Okay.
Because Stu made that play. To make a lateral save on Sasha Barkov all alone driving that in front is a sick skill to have. I just wouldn't use the save selection of having being on all fours and making the on-ice save with my glove.
Yeah, I don't have that.
But he does it because he battled. He's a gamer.
Right.
Like, it's just not – I don't think it's an effective way of goaltending, but it's what he has to do to make those saves due to his limitations, in my opinion. Whereas Bob is just gonna make like a sick. Bob might let that one in because he's too athletic. He might like open up or something.
Right.
Where Stu just like kind of falls over and it just like hits his glove.
Right. And
you know what I mean?
He makes a save. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to wrap my mind around it live as we are talking right now.
It's hard to because we've already talked about this, and then we've had a few days to digest it. Not that we're thinking about it all the time, but it's just like I think the different nuances and different, I don't know what you would call it, like levels of access to mobility that certain human beings have just make it hard to compare certain goalies to each other. So like Bob's going to play, we think it should be played this way. If you have the mobility to do so.
Yeah.
But some guys don't have that mobility.
Right.
Whether you're a 35-year-old fat beer league guy or you're just Connor Hellebuck, Stuart Skinner, who don't have that mobility.
I would agree, but I'm making the case that you can slide laterally in your butterfly, even if you don't have good mobility.
Yeah.
Like when Brad Marchand in double overtime goes to his backhand, I feel like Stu is so technically sound, he just goes in his butterfly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think you're right. I'm just trying to. I guess that's a good point. I'm also trying to wrap my head around. Maybe I'm trying to justify
what we're trying to. We're trying
this.
to wrap our mind around this at live time.
It's difficult. It's difficult.
It's nothing against Stu. It's just we don't understand how he played it that way.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, I understand why he played
when
it
it
that
gets
way, 'cause
funky like that. When the guy lifts his stick a couple times, then you get off balance.
Right.
I could completely understand that.
Right. It's just not the optimal way to play that situation.
But I think, but the other thing I'm trying to think about is I feel like Helly has the same mobility as Stu, but he makes lateral saves more consistently than Stu does.
You think so?
Yeah. It's got to be positioning and experience, right? Reading, positioning
for sure. Position, because Helly, I don't think Stuart Skinner has better positioning than Helly.
Okay.
But I don't think anybody does. Just for the record, we're not roasting Stu here. We're just saying.
Right.
I'm just saying. Connor Hellebuck positionally is insane.
No, I think this is good. I mean, this is good to us to work through this live time right now.
Yeah, people, you're getting a fly on the wall perspective.
This is the normal type of conversation that we have, like in the locker room.
And usually, I'll be honest. Usually, it ends with Stu coming up with a solution. And right now, I keep waiting for it. But
I think we did. I don't know. I think he must have gotten off balance due to just how weird that play was.
Yeah.
And so then, like, Marchand kind of fans on it. He's already going, then he falls forward, and then it just squeaks through his knees.
From my experience playing goalie, I think that's the most logical reasoning.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. I think that's a good segue into our second topic of the day, which is basically, let's see, I was talking to a goalie about things they could improve on. And one of the things I mentioned to them was basically in-game situation, how they play situations in-game, how they play in-game situations, playing them the right way.
This episode is brought to you by Modern Athletics. Modern Athletics just launched a brand new website at modern-athletics.com. It's your new home for everything modern goaltending and more. If you've been visiting moderngoaltending.com, make sure to update your bookmarks. That site is no longer active. If everything you need, from private lessons and camps to resources and registration, is now at modern-athletics.com/goaltending. Plus, you'll find even more athlete-focused support like modern dietetics for nutrition and modern mindset for mental training, all in one place. Visit modern-athletics.com today and step into the next generation of athlete development. That's modern-athletics.com.
So I think with goaltending, there's being able to execute a certain skill, being able to make a blocker save, being able to catch a puck with your glove, being able to make a stick save. And even in the NHL, goals are scored that way because goalies fail on execution. That happens. You miss your post, something happens. But there's a whole other level of goaltending, or a whole other side to goaltending, where I think maybe the most difficult thing to improve and work on in goaltending is taking those tools, taking those things you can execute, and applying them and using them the right way in game situations. Because you can do drills all day long that work on execution. You can do drills all day long that work on you're doing this skill at this time. But being able to, in a split second, decipher which tool I need to use to play this situation, where I need to be to play this situation, and react at the same time, I think is a whole other thing. And it's not just something where you can do, like, if you do, it's not like shooting a basketball where you can shoot 300 basketballs a day and get better.
Right.
It's like something that has to be developed over time, knowing how to apply your tools into game situations.
So how do you think you get good at situational awareness?
So just applying your tools to in-game situations and playing them the right way. I was trying because usually with things you want to improve on, like glove and blocker saves, you can do ball drills off the ice. You can have guys shoot at your hands on the ice, and you're going to get better, right? If you just do reps of them, stick saves, everything, you're going to get better. Right. But this one, I feel like is tougher, and I feel like it's something that there's a lot of different ways to improve on it, but I feel like it's something that you have to keep top of mind while you're developing your skills at the same time.
Yeah.
So your question is how you develop in-game awareness and application of your tools.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking with a goalie, and I listed a few things. Now, the thing with, as you get better and as you get older and move to higher levels of hockey, everybody can make a glove save, everybody can make a blocker save, everybody can make a pad save, everybody can butterfly. But I think what ends up separating goalies eventually is being able to apply those tools and make the right decisions in game situations to make more saves.
Yep.
That's what makes the elite goalies, like we're just talking about Hellebuck, that's what makes him so good. He's stiff, but he knows where to be and how to read situations to make saves in games.
Yep.
And I think that's what separates goalies. So that's why this is an important topic to work on, but it's not something that's so clear to improve. Or the path to improvement isn't as clear, I think, as making hand saves, working on your butterfly, working on your skating, etc.
Yeah, in my head, I'm trying to think of the ways to work on this, right? So if I'm a goalie and I do private lessons and I have hockey practice and then I obviously play games, where is my opportunity to get better at this?
Okay.
I think I'm going to let you go, but I'm just going to say, in my opinion, I think there's ways to do it in all three of those situations.
I think so too. I think number one, you got to play games.
Yeah.
You want to play a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we talk about if you're thinking about two teams to play for, and one you're going to play a ton of games, and one you're not, you want to play a ton of games.
Yeah, even if that means you have to drop from single A.
Right.
From double A to single A.
Don't get caught up with what level you're playing at.
No.
Probably not until you're 18 or 19.
I would say 16. Well, okay. Just what's your goal? Your goal is playing college hockey or making the NHL.
Whatever. Your goal is to improve as rapidly as possible.
You want to be good when you're eligible, right? But you want to be good when you're eligible to play probably college or your last couple of years of junior,
right?
Which will then get you to either college or pro or whatever.
Right. So you got to play a lot of games. Number 2, I think you got to watch NHL hockey.
Oh man,
I think you got to watch hockey.
I think kids, I can speak from my experience with my own kid. You don't watch enough hockey, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to sound like I'm 65 years old here.
Here we go.
It's those damn iPads. They'd rather
but
watch
you could
Pavel
use the
Barber
iPad
clips.
to watch hockey.
They'd rather watch Pavel Barber clips than watch a Detroit Red Wings versus Chicago Blackhawks game in the middle of the hockey season.
And you're saying that goes for all of hockey?
100%.
Like Pavel Barber, the stuff that he and those guys can do is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to watch Sasha Barkov chip a puck off the yellow to himself, stop, protect it from someone, make a 6-foot bump pass to somebody else who's also under pressure and has to rim it out to the defenseman.
Yeah.
Those are little skills that win you games and make you a good player.
Yeah, Pavel Barber stuff
that's
is
for
like,
forwards and defensemen.
I hate using his name because I'm sure he's a good dude and he has whatever, but actually I don't care. Pavel Barber stuff is like 5% of hockey.
It's not about him. It's just it's an example of things that kids are worried about versus being solid players.
Yeah.
But when you watch, and I know, I mean, it's the same thing for me. As a kid, you know, Patrick Kane plays for Chicago. Everybody wants to be like Patrick Kane. He'll go, you know, he'll do a spinorama backhand next to the I can't remember who was in net. Josh Harding maybe next to his ear, elbow in, or Nick Backstrom.
Oh, I remember
next
that goal.
to his ear, or no, it was the Dallas. It was Bachman, Richard Bachman.
Yeah, I remember
next to his ear, elbow in. It's like, oh man,
So
you know,
gross.
kids are trying that every day in practice. So good.
Yeah.
But if you watch the Hawks consistently, he rarely does that.
Yeah.
He's more about his puck protection, his awareness is unbelievable. He rarely ever scores bar down. It's almost always middle of the net, mid-height, over the pad.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, you see one thing, you're like, oh, that's what I got to do. It's like, no.
No, you don't.
There are other skills. So anyways, with goaltending, to develop to work on situational awareness, you have to watch hockey and you have to watch goalies, and you want to watch the best goalies and how they play things that allow them to make saves and the patterns of the game. And also, I think you got to look at mistakes they make and say, okay, he got scored on because he did this wrong.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think you should look at their mistakes probably more than when they do things well, to be honest with you. Because I think our view on things is you can make every save if you allow yourself to do so. So if you see a goal, and for the record, on you too. Like, I know we're talking about watching the game, and that's the current point we're talking about.
Yeah.
But you let a goal in during a game. Don't be that guy that says, "Oh, I had no chance on that one." No,
Yeah.
Look at the situation. What could you have done for the 5 seconds prior to the puck entering the net to grant you the ability to make that save?
Right. And don't evaluate in the game. This is after, when you're watching it back.
Yeah.
You start evaluating in the game,
For the
you're
love
going to
of
go
God.
down a whole other mental rabbit hole.
Don't do that.
So, but you're watching it back. So you're watching NHL hockey. You need to evaluate what they're doing, what makes them good, and where they made mistakes in game where they could have been better and stop pucks. Then with your own games, you want to watch your stuff too. You know, where are you playing situations well, and where are you making mistakes playing situations? And I think part of these evaluation is if you have someone who you can trust, who you like as a goalie coach, I think you have them help look at your video too.
Yeah.
Because they're going to see things that you're not seeing or that you're not sure of.
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be cool if we give like an example, you know, like so situational awareness. What does that mean? I mean, it's self-explanatory, but it's also super broad. So like in my opinion, for the sake of a podcast where they're just listening to us talk, a situational awareness thing could be as simple as, let's say you let in a goal from like, let's say there's a guy in the corner with a puck and he passes it out front across your body to a guy back door, and you're late getting there, and he shoots it far post or inside the far post and in.
Yeah.
Maybe you look at that goal against and you realize that your inside foot was too square to the initial guy.
Yeah.
And therefore you had to rotate it in before pushing, and that half-second delay was responsible for you allowing that goal to go in.
Right.
So situational awareness on that play, if that guy that passed the puck from the corner, if I had my inside foot turned in flat on the goal line, because I know that guy's over there, then I get there in time to make the save.
Right.
That's just an example of a situational awareness play that you can work on.
Right. So that's where your execution is good, because you're doing a technically good RVH. But you set yourself up in a tough spot with your plant leg and get yourself too square to the puck off to the side of the net, so you can't get across when there's a pass backdoor.
So you have the tools to do it, but then you didn't have any awareness that there was a guy standing backdoor.
The application. Yeah. And I think a quick side note is that you should never stop improving your tools, being able to make glove saves, blocker saves, tracking, flexibility, mobility, strength, explosiveness. All this goes without saying. You're always improving those every day. But this is that extra piece that will help you improve at an even faster rate than if you just keep working on your execution and your skills, right?
Yeah.
So we have play games, watch hockey. We also have what you would put in there too is evaluate your games and watch NHL goalies play as a goalie. Don't just watch the game as a fan. Watch it as a goalie and figure out what they're doing well and what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
We had have a goalie coach help evaluate your video from games, right? Did you have anything else to say on those three so far?
I was just going to say there might be, if you watch enough hockey, you're going to see so many different plays develop that you might let in a goal during your hockey game, and then 3 weeks later see an NHL goalie make a save on a similar play and be like, "Oh, I see how he played that. I'm going to try and do that."
Right.
So I just wanted to emphasize how important it is to watch these guys play that do it at such a high level.
I think there's something weird with your brain where it like picks up what they're doing without you knowing that it's doing it. And then you go out and practice and just like kind of do it.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about it.
I think we all want to be in the NHL, and we all admire the guys that are there, whether it's conscious or subconsciously.
Right.
And
so you just try to do it.
Yeah.
The fourth thing I guess now would be in practice. While players are shooting on you and you're working on developing your skill, you're also thinking about how you're playing different situations. So if it's a 2-on-1 drill, you're thinking about your positioning, where you're going to be, your flow backwards, and then in a game that'll transfer over. And you're reading plays, and you're evaluating now in practice on the ice. You can evaluate on the ice. Don't do it in a game after you get scored on. Evaluate in practice, because in a game you want to move on and focus on the next one.
Mm-hmm.
In practice, you want to play the next one different, and you're thinking during practice, and that's okay.
Yeah,
you got to be able to think during practice, think during goalie sessions, and then turn it off when you play.
Yeah, every hockey player has heard from their coach, don't just go through the motions, don't just go with the flow of practice, right? Go out there with a purpose. So again, 2-on-1s are just an easy example to talk about this. If I'm a goalie going and I'm seeing 30 to 40 2-on-1s during practice, I could easily just go out there, it's a Tuesday night, just got here, I was at school, maybe my stomach's a little full and want to go through the motions of practice today. Or I can go out there and be like, I'm going to get better today. So when I'm doing 2-on-1s, I'm going to work on a few different things. Maybe I'm going to play around with my depth at the beginning of my flow on my 2-on-1s and see where I like to make saves, see where I like to be when I have to move across laterally, and just play with it, test things out. Don't just go out there and go through the motions.
And if you get, and then you want to, and then if you get beat, let's say you get beat backdoor cross ice pass and they one time it, was it because you were in a bad spot? Or were you not explosive enough? You need to work on your explosiveness off the ice. So anyways, if you're thinking about application of your tools in game situations in practice, you're going to keep getting better and you're going to recognize it.
Yeah.
So that was the fourth thing. The fifth thing, well, I guess this goes hand in hand as well. Well, I'll go the fifth thing, and then we'll talk about what connects all of them at the end.
Okay.
The fifth thing is going to be, obviously, goalie drills. And goalie drills, it's good to have good technique drills where you're tracking pucks, making hand saves, but goalie drills where you kind of have to read what's going on a little bit and adjust to pass outs, passes across, a couple different shooters. If you can just get in that, I'm working on a technique maybe to start the drill, and the second puck is more of a play it, and you have to read it and kind of play it out like a game situation. I think putting yourselves in those situations in a goalie skate is important too, and that'll help you do that.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your situation, but during a goalie skate for most is probably a private lesson of some sorts, unless you're playing at a high level and you get to have some time before practice with a goalie coach or your goalie partner or whatever. So during that private lesson, again, when I was growing up, I never had a private lesson where the first thing the coach didn't say to me was, is there anything specific you want to work on today? So your coach asks you that, talk about the goals that you let in over the weekend, or just talk about a situation you saw when you were watching NHL game, whether it was a good play or a goal against. Pick something and then work on it with the goalie coach and have him not only have you utilize different tools, but I mean, for us, we use video a lot. I think video is great because then you can look back at it.
We record our goalie skates and we look at it and just kind of see, but
it's a different point of view.
Right, we do it for good. We do it for situational, but also technical. Hips, posture, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all this stuff for a goalie skate specifically, I think, is huge in regards to working on situational awareness.
Yeah.
You can just throw so many different things in there. And you can do it with, it's obviously not, the more shooters you have, the better, but you can literally do it with just a simple one-on-one goalie coach.
Yeah.
You can be like, okay, like as a goalie coach or a goalie, you can be like, all right, we're going to play a situation here. We're going to pretend that there's a guy sitting in the slot and a guy back door. So when I come dot lane drive to you, you can't square up too much to me because you have to respect that there's two guys over there.
Yeah.
And then you can change that up however you want.
Right.
But it's something that I think gets overlooked, and it's easy if you don't kind of paint those situations out prior to starting the drill or think about those situations, it's very easy just to get into the flow and being like, oh, this guy's just coming down all by himself. I can square up to him.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is that every drill that you're doing, whether it's practice, goalie session, you have to think, and your coach will help you with this, but you have to think about in your mind what this looks like during a game, because it's done for a reason. So what does this look like during a game? And you want to play it with that in mind.
Mm-hmm. During a game, there's always going to be more than one option. Yeah. Almost always.
Almost always, maybe a breakaway or like a guy just walking in by himself. But that's
even then,
two.
Yeah. Even then, you could hit shin pads.
Right.
There's guys coming in. There's 5 guys on the opposing team, so they're all trying to score. Right. They all want to score.
100%. So I think so. You have all these tools, and I think you can set yourself up a measurable system to implement these tools. So you can evaluate your game and say, okay, well, how did I feel like I played situations? And you can put a metric to that, maybe 1 through 10 or whatever. And you can measure it, and you can say, okay, what could I have done better in these different situations? You can do the same for practice. You can do the same for goalie sessions. And I think what ties this all together is some sort of reflection and evaluation of, how did I play these situations? How could I have played them differently that might have given me a better result? And when you're in practice and goalie session, it's okay to try different things, try different tools, try different depths, different positionings, because you want to think and get better in practice. And your goal in goalie session, especially, is not to make every save. Your goal is to improve.
Yeah, let the boys celebrate in the corner when they score on you in practice. It's okay.
Right. You better have hard drills, and you better be getting scored on. Otherwise, it's not hard enough.
Yeah, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah, you're not getting any better. Practice. I like to think the same thing. Practice can be a little bit more touchy because a lot of head coaches are like, I'm going to decide who's playing, but based on what's going on in practice. So practice might have to be a little bit more like, I got to stop some pucks, depending on your situation.
Yeah. To a certain degree. I mean, I think if you're performing in games, and then you're not necessarily stopping all the pucks in practice, a coach got to be like, all right, this guy's a stud during the games, right?
But what if you're trying to get to the starting job, and you're not playing any games?
I still think when you do get into a game and you perform because of all the work that you've done in practice, is like, coach will be like, okay, he's performing in games,
right? But then you might go back to the bench again.
Because you're not playing well in practice?
No, because, okay, you got your game in, now the other guy's got to go back in and play all our games.
Yeah. From my experience, it's like that. That's always right for maybe a game or maybe 2 that you play and you play well. but on that third, fourth, and fifth game where it's like, okay, he's still playing well. This guy's got to get more ice.
See, you got to think. You get the perspective I'm coming at you from is college, where there's 29 games. So in the coach's mind, my starter can play 29 games. Guys play 50 in the dub.
Yeah, good point.
And if my other guy goes in and gives him a night off, and the other guy plays great, that's awesome. My starter got a night off. He only has to play 28.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And so I'm just going back to him.
Yeah. That's good situational awareness on your part.
Well, I've lived it. That's why.
Because I'm just like, no, that's not how it is. You got 80 games or 72 games in the dub, man. You're good.
You got to think about other like college or other situations you could be in.
And even is there really only 29 games in college?
If you're in the ECAC or Ivy League, yeah.
Oh my God,
Ivy League, I think. Anyways,
not much playing.
Or I think some D3, yeah, same thing.
Boys must feel good, like strong.
Oh, it is. That's why all the games are 3-2, man, because it is. You got a cage on. You feel energized all the time because you only got to go for like 30 games.
Yeah, and the muscles are just. You guys are all shredded.
Yeah.
Although all the Western Leaguers are all shriveled up to nothing.
You're working out. Yeah. So it's different, and
we're trying to squeeze in one workout a week.
And sometimes coaches are like, "Hey, I don't have many games to evaluate whether this guy's going to be good in our one of 29 games. Because if I can't trust this goalie and I put him in against not a good team, and we're ranked 9th and they're ranked 33rd, and they beat us, and now we're ranked 19th. Guess what? We're on the outside of the national tournament looking in now from one game.
It's a big deal.
So that's kind of where they're thinking. That's where they're coming from.
So your point on this is what? So
the situational awareness?
Yes.
Okay. I think the overarching point is there's probably 5 ways to improve at this because it's kind of more subjective. Mm-hmm. It's not as objective as, okay, I just do 20 blocker saves at the beginning of practice, 20 glove saves, and I get better at it. It's like how it's a little bit, it's more gray. It's more of a gray area type thing.
It gets less gray, in my opinion, the more educated the person evaluating is.
Right, that's a good point, too. That's why a coach helps you. So anyways, the best ways to improve at this, applying your tools that you have, your RVH, whatever, your skating, your saves, into game situations is to play a lot of games, evaluate those games, work on them in practice, evaluate your practices, have a goalie coach look at your games, have them help evaluate your stuff.
Video, maybe some video.
Video, right? Watch NHL goalies.
Yep.
Watch NHL hockey.
That's a big one.
And then in goalie sessions, work on these types of things. Where you're seeing different situations that are tough. If you can have multiple shooters and evaluate those, and obviously your coach is out there helping you evaluate too.
Yeah.
So that's the rundown of what we just talked about.
There's a lot of accountability in there, in my opinion. It's on you. So like everybody wants to be in the NHL, and every kid comes up to us and says, I want to make it to college hockey or the NHL, whatever it may be. This is one of those things that if you want to do that, then you need to watch that NHL game. You need to watch video of your goalie lesson. You need to practice with a purpose and go out there and work on certain situations. This is all stuff that's on the athlete.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's not done enough. And for the record, it can't be done enough. I don't think it's something that you can overdo. It's more often, what I'm trying to say is more often than not, I think from what I've seen, athletes or goalies, whatever, have a tendency to just go with the flow without even knowing that they're doing it and not focusing enough.
Go through the motions.
Doing things with a purpose.
Yeah, like just another day of practice.
But there's a lot of accountability, in my opinion, because like you said, it's not what was the term you used? When you were saying
I don't know.
You used 2 fancy words on me when you were separating the fact that you can go out work on glove saves, but it's hard to subjective.
Subjective, I think, is the word for this.
It's subjective. So you can technically go out there for practice and be like, okay, I'm going to go work on my glove saves, blocker saves, and then during practice fall into that rhythm of going through the motions. Because
just trying to make saves and not being intentional about where am I positioning myself, how am I moving, how am I making these saves?
Right.
Am I in position for all these, or am I diving around and I make a great save, but I'm diving, and in a game I don't want to rely on that.
Right. And you know that if you let a bad rebound out and they score, you might have your coach recognize that. But in regards to situational awareness, again, there's a lot of accountability in this because a coach or you or whoever might not recognize that you're not working on your situational awareness. So there's a lot of accountability there.
Yeah, it's a lot of reflection, self-reflection, and it's on you to want to improve at this, but you're not on your own. You can have coaches help you. You can have other people look at your video and say, hey, this is where I think you can improve. This is how you could have played this situation better. And I think that's probably one of the challenges as goalie coaches is we really enjoy helping kids work on their skills and their technique and getting better at playing situations. Mm-hmm. But we don't always get to, if you're the goalie coach for a team, you do, but we don't always get to watch our goalies in games and see how they're applying all the tools we're trying to help them develop.
Yeah, as a goalie coach,
that's a big thing.
It's a big challenge, I think I'm not I think obviously the solution there is to try and get to every game, but obviously that's not attainable if you're coaching multiple goalies.
Right, or you do private lessons and they go off and play for their teams, and you don't always get to watch them.
Right. Again, that's where I feel like it falls on the goalie a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a lot. But I wasn't sure where situational awareness was going to go.
Well, did you like where it went?
I love where it went.
That's my ideas on that. Those are my ideas on that, at least.
I think, and again, like here I am, 30 years old. I think I'm learning as we're talking, and it's something that I don't know if I was that aware of situational awareness. I am. So,
right.
You are. We talk about it. We work on it all the time. But the actual education of it or educating people on it, specifically the goalies we work with, is something that I can definitely do better at.
I think it's one thing to do it every day. I think it's much more difficult to give someone a process of improving at it.
Yeah.
Because it's more subjective.
Yes. That's a good way of putting it.
So that's kind of, I think, I was asked, I was, like I said, when I was working with this goalie and I told him I think you could work on applying your tools in game situations better, I was like, well, wait a minute. What system can I give him so he can do that? Because if I just tell him that and he goes off, it doesn't really do anything. He's like, okay, I can do that, but he doesn't really know how to get better at it. And I think that's where as a coach, you come in.
Yeah, 100%.
So because I was trying to figure that out in my head, because I know that we do it, but it's like, how exactly do we do it?
Yeah.
And so anyways, that's those are the points we came up with from that.
Yeah, that's a good point. One other thing I'll touch on that is, from the goalie coach point of view, one thing that we often get is prior to lessons or private lessons or whatever, parents will come up to us and be like, hey, so on the weekend, little Jimmy let in a goal, 5-hole on a net drive. And it's like, okay. And then the parent says, I think he needs to work on having a stick on the ice. And it's like, I almost need to see the situation. How did it go in 5-hole? What was happening in front of him?
Yeah.
That's where it's also as a coach, it's tough. So I think for us, it's not all. Yes, we're going to work on the tools, and whether that's providing the tools or honing them or working on them. Working on situational awareness is just as important, and educating these goalies on when to use those tools.
Yeah.
I think that's all I got.
I'd say that's what we aim to do at our camps. That's what we aim to do with our slideshow, is showing visual examples of how to use all the things that we're working at during the on-ice sessions.
Yeah. I think we do a better job at educating situational awareness than I had thought without even trying to do it. But there's always room for improvement.
Well, it was an interesting topic to me, and an interesting, like I said, thing to explain to someone how to improve that.
Yeah.
So that's all I got.
Awesome. I think that does it for episode 26.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you found this useful.
Yep.
And that's it. See you next time.